Welcome to OG Foundation, capital of the sovereign state of Velodium. I am your host, Sovereign of Velodium. This is episode 9 of season 12. And I'll turn this around real quick. So this is the Molly Stark Tower. I'll put it in fisheye view so you can see it a little better. So the way that, this is how it ended at the last episode. So what I'm doing now is, I've got to get this floor all situated. I'm clearly not very good at getting the floor level and getting it to drain. So I'm going to do one more batch, chase the water out. I'm all good through here. I've just got, it's really shallow through there, so just a little bit. And then most of the batch will go right over here so that it all drains over there. And this is, that's the first priority. And I've really just got to get this floor situated. So I'm going to do one batch and do that. And then I can move on to the other forms. And basically this week, the focus should not be the floor. The floor should be done. The focus should be sending the walls up. So you can kind of see the height. That'll be kind of like the maximum height of the wall there. And it rained this morning. I just got back from a supply trip. I resupplied the remesh and the lath. I'm up to my budget of $7,000 on this project for all the ferro cement. And I should have plenty of steel to finish it, and so there should be a lot of steel that I'm putting up this week, and the shape should be coming together a lot as I'm also just kind of raising the walls and everything. So that's the agenda for this week. So one more batch of mortar on the floor, and I'm slowly but surely getting closer to level. And then I'm not quite sure if I'm going to make this level or if I'm going to bend it at the same level as that rebar. Haven't quite figured that out, but it's just cool to take the form down and then to see that there's like steel behind it. But basically this area up here is unusable until tomorrow at the earliest, when all of this can sort of be walked on. So I'm going to work in other areas. So over here I wanted to add another piece of rebar and shape this staircase a bit more, because I want to end up lengthening the stairs, and so that you in the rebar will anchor that piece down into the tire once I get it mortared in. And I have a little bit of lath connecting those pieces of rebar at a angle that is a little bit wider. So the staircase is getting a little bit wider. I might bend the top of that one in or down, and it might get even wider than this, but this is basically the first step towards widening the stairs and doing it in a way that structurally benefits the arch that's there already, so that once it's all tied in, any lateral force is directed or is like anchored down to the tires. So ready for mortar. So here's what I did with that second piece of rebar. I got 2 applications in one batch on the U part of it. So once that dries, cures, that new piece will be in there pretty well. And then up here, by sandwiching some lath around it, that should like anchor in the top really well. And then just got to add more lath to do the middle part. And maybe I'll add a third piece, I'm not quite sure. And also cap this tire while recycling all of the concrete drips and debris and stuff into there, which will help the water also to drain and not get into the tire. Planted a couple tomato plants and one strawberry plant I found today. It's all the gardening I've done so far this year. The boys are doing great. Friday evening. It's the longest day of the year. Hey girl. Summer solstice tonight. And then the spring is over. So we get our first summer night after our longest spring day. I had a pretty productive one. Resupplied the steel, the remesh, and the lath. Got enough of it to finish the tower. 2 batches of mortar and some metal work. The boys are happy to get some attention at the end of the day. They're going wild. Hey, don't eat me. You're a good boy. You're so sweet. So sweet, Bendy. Everyone loves you. Yes. Oh, don't eat my hair. No, what are you doing? Get out! So by Saturday morning, this is all ready to be walked on. I'm just going to leave the plastic down to slow down its drying process today, and I can focus on the metal work, starting with connecting that wall with the counter, clearing up that empty space, putting lath there, and then working on the other walls. So I pulled that top form, flipped it around and put it right there, which covers up a good bit of what I want back there, but that's okay. It'll be good to get the other side all done. And then pulled the form over here and cover up that corner drain. So once I get coverage on the back of this whole thing will be a very strong structural element there. And then just prepped the top section of that wall, so that once I get mortar on that, I can come out with the counter. I'll probably get a decent amount on the counters as well, but time for mortar. And then this is the back side of the banister where I just placed that form. The top part over here, it only had one batch of mortar, and over there I pulled a form that only had one coat of mortar, but still solid enough to be able to pull the form without destroying the work already done. And I put this at an angle because I think the banister will be nicer at an angle there, though we'll see if that changes. So the morning batch got coverage on all that, as well as the corner, and then getting into that corner. So both of those corners are important structurally for this whole banister, and as well as supporting basically the floor. It becomes like a bond beam. And then working on all the connections between there, so I can pull those forms soon. Got another coat on the back side of those forms, and some decent coverage here, and then double coat there with a bit more mortar on this kind of countertop, as well as a first coat on this section over here. So good start for the day. So I've got this structural countertop all prepped, except for just the two areas by those forms, so I can still remove those forms which are on the inside. But I've got a batch of mortar all mixed up that's really high fiber content. Let's go back to normal view. And so I'm going to be applying it on the whole thing, while also supporting the underneath of it in the areas that I can. Over here it's already got some good undercoating and support underneath. Time for mortar. So after 3 buckets, got some good coverage on both the countertop and a good bit of the space underneath that needed to get kind of supported. I couldn't get it all the way to fill the void there, but I got really good support over here, and also working this wall a bit, which is pretty solid all the way up to there. So there's some spots in the corners where there's not even lath, and I just kind of like throw mortar at it and build it out until it fills the gaps, which is kind of what I've done on this side where the forms are on this side, and I have to get on the outside on the ladder to mortar it. So I'm going to put my 4th bucket on the back side of those 2 forms to make sure that it's all solid enough over there, so that I'll be able to pull that form and that form. And then once I pull them, I can bring that countertop over to the edge of the wall, and should get a pretty close to a finished coat on there. But it's hard up high on the ladder. I'll give you a shot of it. So that's what it looks like now. It's a bit rough, and basically I just gotta carry the bucket up the ladder and then balance it up there as I apply it. So I didn't have enough mortar to get full coverage, but I certainly got enough coverage to be able to pull those forms from the other side. Sunday morning, got a good bit of rain overnight, and this is pretty much all good for the rain. There's like really shallow puddles, which I'm not concerned about. I'll end up doing a finish coat at some point, but there's nothing like serious up here. There's probably just like a gallon of water in the low points. So the floor is all situated. The countertop has gotten a day's curing and a nice raining on it, And the back of this form yesterday got 2 coats, so I should be able to pull that form either later today or something. And then also over here on this piece of rebar, it was sort of coming in, so I was kind of like propping it out with that piece of plywood to get it as straight as possible here, and then mortared that whole section in. So it's probably going to be a slow day today because of the weather, but I'm going to see about maybe pulling a number of forms and prepping, and then kind of just see if the weather will allow for any mortar, or if I should just do all prep work for today. End of the day Sunday, and bending metal, and the shape is coming together. So you can see it's going to open up to the window directly from the countertop. And same thing over here. It's going to open up to this window. I'm just going to kind of rough in the ferro cement features, and then leave enough room for the windows that I intend later on, and figure out how to do the kind of arches to connect to the dome and whatnot. Monday morning, and the first priority is getting a backing on that central panel, that wall that had the forms on the inside, as well as this over here, to get this all solid. And then after that, I'll be able to get first coat on this part, finishing up this counter and tying it in with the walls, and then second coat on some parts of this as well. So there's a couple parts over here where there was a form that was like propped up underneath to make it easier to do. You can see the end of that. And over there's some fresh stuff, so getting coverage on all of that and connecting a bunch of structural elements. So 2 buckets into the batch. I've got a first coat on here, a second coat on there, and a first coat over there. And it's so warm, and it's basically just like baking so fast. Today it's like in the 90s, and so I'm just gonna go right back and then apply the second 2 buckets as if it's a fresh batch. Right over that, I'll get the second and finish coat on that, and then I'll get the second and finish coat on this, and then probably move on to that. Just gotta have a lot of extra water in the mortar, but it can also go really quickly like this, so I gotta keep moving, resculpting all day. So after 1 batch with 2 applications on both surfaces, that wall panel and that wall panel are, it's not a finish coat, but it's like structurally sufficient, certainly. And I'm ready to move on to the countertop now. But before I do, I'm going to want to bend the metal, at least for the edge on this panel, just like I kind of have it already there. I didn't realize, I thought I was going to have like a backsplash or something, but I'm just bending it right over the countertop, right to open. And any backsplash type thing would end up being framed in relation to the window or something. So prep this and then mortar. So the metal for the third window is prepped here. The remesh bent down, we'll give it some more strength, and the lath just kind of bent down too. It might be a little high there, but basically it's so low on the far side that it needs to come up like an inch anyways, so I don't even really need to weigh any of that down, even though some of it is up a little bit. It'll all be good. So, take care of the goats, and then the counter batch will be up next, which includes all of this underneath stuff, and second coating as much of that as possible, so that this gets nice and strong. And basically, if I can undercoat and overcoat it, then tomorrow I should be able to stand on that countertop, and then be able to stand up there to work on the stuff above that. It's like mid-90s today, nice and hot. Got 2 batches done up top, and now I'm going to see about extending this bottom stair. This has been so difficult to get up this staircase, which only has 3 stairs, and then I gotta just like do all sorts of labor to get it up the rest of the way. So eventually I'm going to add more stairs, but the first step is to widen the lowest stair, because if I do it a certain way, I can continue to use the other stairs while I'm working on widening the lowest stair. That's the idea. And I'm also going to bend these pieces of rebar. I'm hoping that they're solid enough in there with that 1 cement reinforcement at the top to be able to bend them. I'm going to try to do it now just in case I mess it all up. I'll have a before shot. So that actually worked really well. I didn't really have to do anything special to just bend it with a bender, and it was just solid in there. So it gets like wider coming out here, and once I add lath to that, I can get it all kind of in line and smooth with the existing shape. And now I'm going to build this bottom step. So here's what I came up with for a stair. A lot simpler than last time. Basically, I'm using a roll of lath, or just one piece, like rolled up, and then kind of squeezed in there. And depending on how I apply the mortar and get it to stick, I should be able to get it to be level or slope down. And I'm going to do mortar now. Here's how that stair turned out. I got coverage on all the side lath and decent amount of coverage on the stair. I couldn't add any more because then it was starting to kind of lose its structural integrity. And there'll be a pretty big hollow space under there. But the way that the lath was all situated, I was able to get pretty good coverage. And then tomorrow, I should probably get enough coverage that I'd be able to stand on it the day after tomorrow. But now I'm going to try to get up without damaging it. But now I hear the cat, and I don't want her to follow me because she'll definitely damage it. I'm going to be quick so the cat doesn't try to follow me. So I did get a second coat above on the whole countertop. Got coverage on all the new spots that didn't have coverage. And then I got the undercoat all around as well. Only in the places where there's new coverage was I not able to get a second coat, like there and there, but closed up just about all the holes. And I've watered this one once. Got some good coverage over here. So maybe like one more batch and I'll be pretty good on this whole kind of lower wall section down here. Super warm, and so it's all curing really fast. I got to keep watering it and make sure the cat doesn't get on the stair down there. Look who moved in to the stair. Somebody thinks it's a great place to live. So after one batch this morning, this has full coverage, and it's dry enough for another batch to get an undercoat and a second coat. In some places, all of this already has a second coat. And the idea is that after one more batch, this should be strong enough to walk on tomorrow. That's the idea anyways. So Wednesday morning, this has had the night to cure. There's a bit of rain, so there's maybe a little bit of rain damage on it, but let's see if it collapses if I stand on it. Nope, seems pretty solid. So that's nice. And now what I want to do is extend the next step. So I think that'll be the first thing I do today, is in a similar way that I did the first one. Let's see if the spider's still in there. Do you see it? I don't see it. But it's all undercoated. I may add a little bit more. That's almost all packed out here. And so yeah, I'll prep step 2. At some point I'll tie those bent pieces in. And if I need to get up top, I should still be able to kind of skip this step. But I think step 2 will come out all the way to the edge of this ferrous cement thing. Which, if I was really thinking, I would have left enough space for metal tie to tie it in. But I'm just going to do it like this one, kind of like a roll of lath. And then just kind of put it in there, and I can at least tie it to the edge of that stair. And otherwise it'll just be like this one, how the sides of it are just mortared in like that. So that's the first step for today. So I got the first 2 stairs prepped. Both of them have almost, or at least 3 sides, so full arch of lath and in a compression shape. So what I'm going to do is make like a half batch of mortar. So after one batch of mortar, this is what these stairs look like. I basically get the walls really good and just kind of the transition from the wall to the step, and then have it weighted down to kind of like level. And I can't do a second application until this gets pretty solid, because any weight I would add to the middle would deform the corners. So this is probably all I'll get to on this until a later batch in the day, most likely at this temperature and kind of rate of curing. And then I might be able to get a covering on the whole step. But this first one is nice and solid. I ended up doing a full batch. Filled up that hole there with rocks and mortar, and got a little more on that, and a good bit over here as a kind of extra structural kind of coat to reinforce all of that, basically. So that's batch 1. So this is after the second batch on Wednesday. I also put down a piece of lath here to kind of bridge these 2 tires and cover, close up that hole. I ended up putting a drain pipe in there, and then just kind of shaping the arch. So there's not full coverage on the middle step, so I'll have to wait till tomorrow to get that, and then can do the above and below on the other ones, and I'll have to wait till Friday probably to be able to fully utilize them. Thursday morning, and the goal today is both to get coverage on those stairs as well as coverage on that section where a form was removed, and hopefully I can get at it from both sides with those ladders and get a double coat on that in one batch, hopefully, so that it's pretty much done after one batch. We'll see how that goes. So after the first batch, pretty happy with that. I just want to clean it up a little bit on the right side where that ladder is, but I'm pretty much done with this left side of this ladder, unless I pull that next form, which I'm currently debating. And then over here on the stairs, there's full coverage on the next 2 stairs. I just can't quite use them yet. And pretty decent undercoating, except on the fresh stuff over here. So the plan is I'll probably prep for the next batch and try to get some more mortar on this one, especially the undercoating, by the end of the day. See, maybe if I do 3 batches, maybe in the 3rd batch I'll get coverage on the undercoat. And ideally it will be able to walk on these stairs tomorrow. So here's how this whole stair feature looks now. I've smoothed out and connected a lot of that kind of extension that has the 2 rebar pieces, and those are pretty well tied in down there. And the stairs are much wider now. I'll probably end up making a stair that like goes that direction, because that first stair is so tall to kind of have that. But generally they're big stairs, but a lot more tread on them now, so they're not gonna smack your knees as you try to get up the steep stairs now. And at some point soon here, I will prep the next stair or 2. I would do it right now if I could get access to it. We'll see. This is the other side of where that hole was. With one more batch, that will no longer be visible. And then I added this rock here, which isn't like good structurally at all, but is filling out this space pretty well, and will help me to fill out that space regardless of it not sitting super well on that tire. But once it all gets tied in, it'll be all good. Here's my super sketchy steps 4 and 5. I guess it actually doesn't look too bad from the camera, but the top one is just to try to get something anchored in, and similarly with I guess that's the 4th stair there. The goal is to just get one back on there, throw it down, and get something to stick. And these stairs are so big you could probably put like a cinder block in between each one, and then that would be more like normal size stairs. But there could also be storage inside the stairs too, so it'll be good like this. This will have the structural elements, the stair, the utility element, storage element, and then for convenience, if they need to be a little bit shorter, then you can always just add half stairs later on. Thursday evening, I've done some metal work over here, which is kind of like the hole in the facade. So I'm building like a tunnel that will go through and around. And so I reinforce around that hole with rebar above and below. And then I've tied in this remesh to that rebar. And I put lath on the outside. You're usually always supposed to put lath on the inside, but because of the shape of it, it made more sense for me to drape it over on the outside. And as long as I get them nice and tight together, it'll still work. It'll still work well. So I'm going to try to get a batch of mortar on this. I also got like a foot of lath around that, and that's the rebar that goes vertically in the column. So that ties in to that piece of rebar as well. So, and then that piece of rebar, that horizontal one, I got sandwiched with lath. So I've got a good bit I can do up here, and then just got to eat first, and then should be able to get that additional coat on those two stairs, and maybe get a start on the other stairs as well. Boys are out of the pen on Thursday. This is their staple food. The boxwood elder branches. This one's already stripped. They're getting those. All this. That big one's a boxwood elder. This big one's a boxwood elder. It grows so fast. Plenty of food, boys. Plenty of food. So I'll give you the last shots of the week. So we got at least some coverage on the new lath sections up there. And then in this new arch, there's at least one line of mortar that goes all the way across. So that thing is in there for good now. So I'm thinking there's going to be like a little door with a drain going through it or something like that. And try to keep it open so it's like a tunnel through here. And then I'll give you the final shots of the stairs. And the stairs here have good coverage on the first three there. And I just got kind of the very beginnings of some coverage on the next two. After which it'll be a lot easier to get up there. But tomorrow, so I've been walking on that one. Tomorrow I'll be able to walk on those two, and I'll have better access to the top two. So that's all for this week. The two chickies are doing good. Grizzly's being a great mama. The boys are doing good. All the chickens are doing good. They're just not laying a lot of eggs when it's been super hot. But that's alright. I've been making do. And got the 3 steps done. Working on the next 2. Doing some structural stuff. Got that countertop all done. We'll see where we go from there in the next week. But that's all for this one. Thanks for tuning in.